Hey, welcome back everybody. GHS InfoSec here. It is December 1st, 2021, and that means it's the start of the TryHackMe Advent of Cyber Challenge. This is the Advent of Cyber 3. It's the third year they've done this, and it is a cybersecurity challenge each day for 25 days leading up to Christmas. So let's get started. Now, as you can see here, we've got the John Hammond cybersecurity kickoff for the Advent of Cyber. I recommend you check it out. It's an awesome video. John puts out some good content. So let's go ahead and get started with the introduction. It says, welcome to Advent of Cyber 2021. Get started with cybersecurity in 25 days by learning the basics and completing a new beginner-friendly security exercise every day leading up to Christmas. It's an Advent calendar, but with security challenges and not chocolate. Now, I love chocolate, but I also love security challenges, so I'm really looking forward to this. And down here they list the prizes. They've gotten over $19,000, almost $20,000 worth of prizes here, including a bunch of exam vouchers, some laptops, some Hack5 gear, some TryHackMe swag, a lot of cool stuff here. So definitely something worth checking out. I don't know that I'm going to win any prizes here, but I'm excited to participate and see what I can do to just throw my hat in the ring. Also, every day you complete a challenge, you get entered into a prize draw for the chance to win a mini prize. That's cool. The daily prizes are done at the end of the week. Complete every task in the event and earn a certificate of completion. And this is actually what the certificate will look like. So if you complete all 25 challenges, you will actually get this certificate. So that's cool. And going on a little further, they have our sponsor listing with CompTIA, Offensive Security, PortSwigger, and BC Security. It's actually a little tough to read on my screen, so I might zoom out just a little bit. Yeah, that's better. So now we can see that a little bit better. Also, we've got some videos from some cybersecurity content creators. John Hammond, Neil Bridges, and Nomsec are great. I have not checked out the other guys, I'm just going to be honest, but I look forward to seeing what kind of content they've got on YouTube. I'm sure it is fantastic. And the topics that are going to be covered are going to be web exploitation, network exploitation, open source intelligence, cloud hacking, and defensive blue teaming. I've already answered this question, but I've not done the first challenge yet. I've actually answered several of them already, but I haven't actually started any of the challenges yet. I just got all the easy ones done and out of the way. So let's just keep going. They have their links to their social media. I am not on social media, so I'm not going to be following any of these guys, but if you are, feel free to do that by clicking the links here. I've already answered these questions, so I'm just going to keep moving. And then they have a discount offered for their subscription. Now, this event is completely free. You do not have to have a paid subscription to participate. I actually don't have a paid subscription, and I'm going to be participating. But if you would like to subscribe, they have a discount code here that you would use at the checkout, but that's only valid until the 7th of December. But you get 20% off the annual subscription price. So you got a little over 5 days left in order to get that discount on the subscription model. And now to the tutorial. The typical way that I connect to the TryHackMe network is through the OpenVPN client. For me, that's always been the easiest way, but they give you an option to deploy a web-based attack box, and you get 1 hour for free per day during this challenge to use that without the subscription. If you have a subscription, you can use it for an unlimited amount of time, but if you don't, if you're using the free model like me, just know that you will only get 1 hour per day for free to use the attack box. Now the rules, if you break any of the rules, that will result in elimination from the competition. So tryhackme.com and the subdomains, the OpenVPN server, all that stuff is off limits to probing, scanning, or exploiting. Users are only authorized to hack machines that have been deployed in the rooms that they have access to. Now, this is a room in TryHackMe. You have to join this room and be able to access it and do the challenges. Users are not to target or attack other users. Users should only enter the event once using one account. Answers to questions are not to be shared unless shown on videos and streams. Well, that's what we're doing here, so we're just going to keep on rocking. And now we've made it to the story. So here is the Christmas story. All exercises in Advent of Cyber follow a fun Christmas story. This year, the elf McSkitty, that's an awesome name. I guess that's an appropriate name for an elf, needs your help to hack back and undo the Grinch's malicious activities. They have this nice little cartoon comic graphic here, and it says McSkitty is the Chief Information Security Officer. We got a note from Santa. It says, "Dear McSkitty, as our new Chief Information Security Officer, it's your job to keep us secure from any potential cyber threats. Don't let me down, Santa." All right, we're going to see what we can do to help Santa out. It looks like McSkitty says, I wonder how the other elf analysts are getting on. Where'd all our security elves go? It looks like they disappeared. So feel free to read through this comic yourself. It looks pretty cool. Whoever did this did a great job with the graphics. It looks pretty sweet. So now here's the story. It's the eve of 30th November. McSkitty sits in her large office with a cup of hot cocoa. I recommend you grab one of those if you're going to be doing this. They're delicious. Reminiscing over her stressful times at the Best Festival Company. Since her management of the Christmas Monsters cyber attacks last December, she'd been promoted to Chief Information Security Officer and has managed to build a world-class security team. She made a promise to never let Christmas get affected by cyber incidents and has done everything in her power to prepare the Best Festival Company for any incidents and assist Santa in delivering presents globally with no disruptions. As she grins to herself, after all, what could go wrong? Elf McAssistant runs into her office and gasps, all our security analysts have missed their last shift and no security personnel can be found in the building. McSkitty jumps out of her chair and spills her hot cocoa all over herself. What? She swiftly moves over to the Elf Security Center housing the security personnel and looks over the large area filled with empty desks. Where did everyone go on the eve of the most important time for the Best Festival Company? She rushes over to the desk of her head of her security analyst team, Elf McLeader, and notices the desk is surprisingly clean. For someone so messy, how was his work area completely empty? I'm pretty sure we all know somebody like that. As she started theorizing in her head, she noticed a small piece of paper hidden at the back of the desk behind the screen. As she made sense of what was on the paper, her eyes widened. Why did McProfessional book a one-way flight ticket on this exact day? Before she had time to make any assumptions, a loud, grumpy voice was resonating from the security center from the internal announcement system says, Grinch Enterprises will never let Christmas succeed. It would be a shame if your world-class security team just suddenly disappeared. This was all planned! How did they access our internal systems? Cried McSkitty. Their intelligence team had prepared for this exact scenario, but it didn't help that the security center was completely empty. This needs to stop happening, sighed McSkitty and dragged herself to the office to save Christmas. All right, we have a note here that says tasks are released daily and will vary in difficulty, although will always be aimed at a beginner level. So if you're a beginner, if you've never done anything like this before, don't worry about that. These tasks are going to be geared more towards you, and these are going to be in a walkthrough format. That's typically how they do the Advent of Cyber. So don't be alarmed. Just challenge yourself. Have fun. It's going to be a blast. So I've already submitted this question. Now let's get ready to get started. All right. Task 6, Day 1, Web Exploitation, Save the Gifts. The story, the inventory management systems used to create the gifts have been tampered with to frustrate the elves. It's a night shift, and McStalker comes to McSkitty, panicking about all the gifts being built wrong. With no managers around to fix the issue, McSkitty needs to somehow get access and fix the system and keep everything on track to be ready for Christmas. The learning objectives are, what is an IDOR vulnerability? How do I find and explore IDOR vulnerabilities? And the challenge workthrough. So it looks like we have a little bit of setup before we actually get to the challenge. So let's read through this. What is an IDOR vulnerability? IDOR stands for Insecure Direct Object Reference and is a type of access control vulnerability. An access control vulnerability is when an attacker can gain access to information or actions not intended for them. An IDOR vulnerability can occur when a web server receives user-supplied input to retrieve objects, such as files, data, and documents, and too much trust has been placed on that input data, and the web application does not validate whether the user should, in fact, have access to the requested object. Okay, so how do I find and exploit IDOR vulnerabilities? As previously mentioned, an IDOR vulnerability relies on changing user-supplied data. This user-supplied data can mainly be found in the following 3 places. In the query component. The query component data is passed in the URL when making a request to a website. Take, for instance, the following screenshot of a URL. So we have this domain, which is https website.thm profile ID equals 23. So it actually gives us a breakdown of that. And it says the protocol, which is HTTPS. It shows us the domain, which is website.thm. The page we're going to is profile, and the query component is ID equals 23. Here we can see that the profile page is being requested, and the parameter ID with the value of 23 is being passed in the query component. So in this example here, the profile ID is going to be for whoever is assigned the ID of 23. So that could be, McSkitty, that could be anyone. This page could potentially be showing us personal user information, and by changing the ID parameter to another value, we could view other users' data. So post variables. Examining the contents of forms on a website can sometimes reveal fields that could be vulnerable to IDOR exploitation. For example, take the following HTML code for a form that updates a user password. All right, so we have a post method, which is going to invoke a post request to update a password. That's the action we're taking here. Now, the input type is hidden, so you're not necessarily going to see that, but what we are changing here is going to be the password for the user ID whose value is 123. And it says here, you can see from the highlighted line that the user's ID being passed to the web server in a hidden field. Changing the value of this field from 123 to another user ID may result in changing the password for another user's account. So that's where that kind of stuff can be dangerous. If you see anything like this, you've got an IDOR vulnerability. Now, cookies. What would Christmas be without cookies? To stay logged into a website such as this one, cookies are used to remember your session. Usually this will involve sending a session ID, which is a long string of random hard-to-guess text, such as this here, which the web server securely uses to retrieve your user information and validate your session. Sometimes, though, less experienced developers may store user information in the cookie itself, such as the user's ID. Changing the value of this cookie could result in displaying another user's information. See below for an example of how this might look. So in this example here, we have a GET request to the user information page on the website.thm site, and the cookie is the user ID of 9. So that's actually pretty dangerous. It's not some, hex encoded value that could be passed in a secure way. This is like straight up the user ID. So in the second example here, we could see that you can actually manipulate the user ID. They changed it from 9 to 5. So in that case, the user ID of 9 is John, and the user ID of 5 is Martin. So when you execute the GET request and you were able to manipulate that cookie, you could actually be posing as a different user altogether. And now we have a little blurb about IDOR in the wild. Seeing a product, user, or service identifier in the URL or otherwise is a must to test. IDOR vulnerabilities can reveal sensitive information as well as potentially giving you access to usually restricted site functionality. So it may be an instance where you get the user ID in this example of the administrator user or the root user. For security researchers, IDOR vulnerabilities can be impactful, and reporting them can yield a good bug bounty. See this article, where an IDOR vulnerability report to PayPal had a $10,500 payout. All right, so now we're down to the challenge walkthrough. Click the green View Site button at the top right of this task to open up the inventory management system. Here you'll find a mock browser on the completed orders page showing images of toys which have been made incorrectly due to the Grinch's tampering. And this is a screenshot of what that's going to look like. So I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to click the View Site. And it looks like it's going to bring it up here to the side. Instructions. The inventory management systems used to create the gifts have been tampered with to frustrate the elves. It's a night shift, and McStalker comes to McSkitty panicking about the gifts being built wrong. With no managers around to fix the issue, McSkitty needs to somehow get access and fix the system and keep everything on track to be ready for Christmas. So we have the inventory management system here, but let's head back down to the walkthrough. Alright, so it says there are also 3 other pages on the navigation panel: Builds, Inventory, and Your Activity. The Builds page shows different toys and the parts they are made up of. As you can see, due to tampering, these are all incorrect. And if we look at this, it looks like the toy train is made with a train base and teddy bear head. The teddy bear is made with a teddy bear body and a spinning top plunger. And the spinning top is made with a spinning top base and train wheels. Yeah, I would say those are definitely wrong. And going back to the completed management system, the completed orders here on the inventory management system, you can see the bear heads on the train, the toilet plunger on the bear, the plungers on the train. I mean, this is just a mess. All right, so the inventory page lists the individual items with their corresponding SKU codes. Let's take a look at that. So we have the SKUs for all these items here. And the Your Activity page displays McSkitty's user information, photo, and their recent actions on the system. So this may actually be something where we get to abuse this IDOR vulnerability. And if you see here, we have a parameter user ID equals 11 in this browser, and we see that we are McSkitty, we're a junior toy tester, and our employee ID is 11. So this is probably where we're going to take advantage of this. So as we learned above, an IDOR vulnerability requires changing some kind of user input. Out of all the pages we can navigate to, the only page that has input that can be altered is the Your Activity page. And we just figured that out. So you'll see in the URL a query component parameter named user ID, which is set to the value of 11, is McSkitty's user ID. Try changing the user ID value in the address bar, and you'll see that the web application tries to load another user's information. Try different numbers between 1 and 20 until you find a user who could have been responsible for tampering with the system. So let's go up here and let's try a user ID of 1. And it says that we are Santa, and we are the boss. Let's see here. Let's go with 2. User not found. Okay, let's try 3. And we are McStalker. Let's try 4. User not found. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, user ID 9 is the Grinch. Okay, so the Grinch is the mischief manager, and I think we found who's been tampering with this system. So now we are going to click on the revert button on the user's actions. We'll roll back the changes and allow the toy making machine to properly build toys again. Once all the changes have been reverted, you'll be rewarded the flag, which can be entered below. So it looks like we actually have some questions that we can answer before we do that. So after finding Santa's account, what is their position in the company? Let's go back to Santa's user ID, which is 1, and he is the boss. And we got that correct. All right, McStalker, I believe, was 3. And he is the build manager. After finding McStalker's account, what is their position? Okay, that was what we needed, build manager. After finding the account responsible for the tampering, what is their position in the company? And that was the Grinch. He was the user ID 9, and I believe it was mischief manager, and it was. All right, so now we can just go ahead and we can revert all these changes. And once we do that, we got the flag. So we're going to submit this flag here, and I believe that is going to be it. The rest of these can be completed without an answer. So we got that, and now we have a link to learn more about IDOR vulnerabilities, and they suggest we check that out. So I would recommend the same. Check up on the IDOR vulnerabilities and see how you can tamper with those query parameters. And the tasks released each day get progressively harder, but are still guided with walkthrough videos. Come back tomorrow for day 2's task. All right, well, we can mark these as completed, and day 1 is in the books. Really exciting, really fun challenge. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please sign up for TryHackMe.com and check out the Advent of Cyber 3 and do all 25 days of cybersecurity challenges, especially if you're a beginner, because each one of these is going to get just a little bit harder, but they're going to build, most likely they're going to build on top of each other. It's more about the methodology and the process of problem solving and asking questions and answering questions. And that's how you learn to get better. I am by no means near the level of some of these guys like Nomsec and John Hammond, but from about a year and a half ago when I started getting into hacking and cybersecurity like really heavily, I've come a long way since then, and I know you can do it too. All it takes is just some time and a little bit of effort. But if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It helps me grow the channel. Please share this, with whoever you think may be interested in this type of content. And thank you so much for watching.